down from here. And Rumble is going to be banned away first. Of course, the obligatory Skarner and Kalista are probably going to be banned away here on the red side. The last ban is going to be where we do get a bit of a change-up, as Poppy is going to be taken away also. I like it when the Poppy does get banned away. I feel like it can really warp drafts. So now it feels like a lot of things left up and available, apart from Kalista. That's going to be banned here. No,
well, that's the interesting thing to me, is that with that Poppy ban, the Kalista stocks rise even further.
Yeah.
Because that's one of the picks that you can pick in support that can really mitigate it. So I do expect DK to ban Kalista here still. Because if you leave open Kalista, I think, yeah, you would have also left open Skarner. And then they would have gone Skarner, you would have gone Kalista, and then maybe you can try and make something work. Because there is immediately the Yone to come out. This is theoretically a flex. Does mean that Lucid is going to get his hands on what is his best champion. He's been playing incredibly well so far. And there's no Poppy on the enemy team either.
And do you think it's a waste having the two best Yone players on the same team?
Yes.
It kind of is, isn't it?
Yeah, it does. Well, yeah, particularly with Chovy's performance thus far, it is just Zeka and Zeus. It's definitely not Showmaker, so I think he's happy when he saw it picked up.
That would be two junglers, so I don't know whether that's what's going to happen here, as the Vi is already locked in and Lucid is still cycling junglers. Is it going to be the Elise? Is it going to be maybe the Ahri? Maybe you just lock away a mid 1-2 to try and do battle against what this Yone is already representing. Unless they just lock the Sejuani and Beryl plays it. That would be really strange. Rakan going to be locked in though, so we've got jungle and support.
That's
a lot of utility locked away instead of going for the firepower.
That's really interesting. DK, I think, have been one of the teams that have used support counterpick the best out of almost anyone. I do think the Rakan stocks are really high because the Poppy's gone, and it is such an insane combo with Vi. Allows you to set up. It's also arguably Delight's best champion. I'm saying arguably because Delight has been playing incredibly well.
Yeah, they pick away the Xayah.
So, well, actually, I think DK had such a good reader because I assume that they knew that Humble Life was going to go for the Xayah no matter what because Viper has prioritized it, and they picked Vi.
And they picked Vi.
So then, if you end up playing Vi into Xayah Rakan, Delight gets one of his favorite picks, plus that. Now, okay, I was very worried for a second.
Did you hear the collective groan? I heard the collective groan, yeah.
We need to let it go. The Maokai comes through. Now, this is also a flex pick because Peanut was obviously the Maokai guy, had an incredible win rate on that champion for the longest time. But it's also a counter pick into the Rakan that we have seen. You have guaranteed point-and-click lockdown. Now, I think an 80 carry is most likely here. Otherwise, the pool can really get pinched. This makes perfect sense.
Kai'Sa, yeah.
It's one of Amic's champions. It goes very well together with the Vi. And we are getting some serious dive versus counter dive setups being built here.
Man, this Bengi versus Dandy battle at the moment is really heating up. I love this because these are some really intelligent drafts already represented just by the first 3 picks. Now, one thing has to be said, and that is drafts have been ruined from this point. They have looked great and then been catastrophically destroyed. You know, if we remember back to the worst picked Blitzcrank in the season, that has happened so far. So it's not all wine and roses just yet. We'll see what does happen as the rest of the picks do come through. The Ahri ban, understandable here.
And LeBlanc.
Yep.
We're going to ban Ahri LeBlanc.
That could be it, unless you want to ban the Zillion. Because, you know, Showmaker has played only 3 champions more than once. Zillion is one of them.
He's not playing Zillion Vi, Atlas. There's into the enemy disengage comp. I know there's a Yone there, but it would be a big surprise as there is the Elise and the Alistair both taken away. Anything else that might come through. And they are not banning the LeBlanc, so that feels like a no-brainer to come through here. Maybe Showmaker worried about the 1v1 if he doesn't pick it. We also, I'm gonna save counterpick for Shiwa. I think that's a great call. Zeus is an incredibly scary laner. And him not having, we're not gonna get baited, Atlas. Him not having the opportunity to get a counterpick into who I think is gonna be the most vulnerable member on DK makes a ton of sense.
That's even more fun. There we go. This is a champion that I heard Showmaker's pretty good at. Because there's that DK Twisted Fate. Did you know that that was Showmaker that got that skin? I think we've spoken about that one before.
Every now and then.
Yeah.
We have mentioned it.
Well, that is, well, I mean, it's dive, it's pick, it's global. Like, I actually really like
It's
what this
DK.
what this TF does. What about top lane Nocturne? What's
Just
that doing
Gnar?
at the moment?
Do you just slam Gnar here?
I guess you may as well. You could go for Kennen, I guess, if you'd like,
Yeah,
but
Casante's makes
Casante's
sense.
still up, man.
Maybe I would love a Gnar pick for Shield here, because again, it's fearless. It also takes it away from Zeus in the future.
Yeah. I'd like to see that. The
Aatrox has
Aatrox
not looked
also,
great.
you take that away from him, but
This has actually looked good. You
Yeah.
know, and I don't think that Zeus was the standard in the Gnar game that they won. He did it the big ult, but it's more so the reliable laning pressure and the late game win condition.
it also splits and team fights.
Yeah.
And I think for a composition like this that can 1-3-1
great.
so beautifully, the semi-globals of both the Killer Instinct and the Destiny Gate combo from the Twisted Fate, I think that it's a beautifully put together composition. And the thing is, even when DK weren't good, over the last couple of years where they haven't been that world championship team, they do the Twisted Fate pick comp so well. And now they've got Beryl back to mastermind it.
Yeah.
They've got the young hands in the top lane. I think that if DK are going to win a red side game, it's going to look something like this. But HLE have a lot of power.
I gotta say though, as far as disengage comps though, and like the amount of CC that's available,
Yeah.
who is actually a good target to pick off on the Hanwha side? I'm telling you, Atlas, that is not an easy decision. There's Maokai, don't want to engage a Maokai. There's Casante, obviously
I think
can't do that.
it's actually only Yone and it's Zeka.
Yeah, or it's Xayah without an ult. Or you force the ult and then... what trying to say here is that as good as I think the DK composition is, there are very few ways outside of support where you can make the composition of Hanwha Life better into dive, right? Like there is so much safety. The Yone feels a little bit awkward, like the Yone Nautilus are a little bit off theme, but Nautilus does mean that you can force fights, which is the Light's biggest strength. And then Yone is Zeka Paladin, one of his best champions. So we have some very clear game plans here in game number 1, and I think a lot of action coming in. Look at that!
Oh, this is very cool.
Wow, playing his own skin as well.
Of course he is. Of course he is. This is a very cool new one. I actually kind of like it. Being able to see exactly what the skin's going to be before you get onto the Rift. Oh, speaking of which, let's do it right now.
미니언 생성까지 30초 남았습니다.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, here we are, onto the Rift for game number 1. The winner of this series will be heading directly to the grand final.
Oh,
If they win that, that will be our representative at the first stand, the very first one. So there's a lot on the line.
yeah, first strike for Showmaker. So a little orb, I'm like, is that? That is what we're looking at. He's obviously playing ranged into melee. So I imagine he's going to try and farm as much gold, obviously with his passive as well. Already going to generate a ton, as we do have the initial setup being done here. Now, looking for lane swaps, I can imagine that DK might want to look for one, because aiming and barrel are not a great lane, right? Like, specifically the Rakan and the Kai'Sa, incredible late game combo. Not great in lane, don't really have a lot of pressure. Pre-6, you are very weak in any sense of the word, and they unfortunately will not get the lane swap off. So Hanwha Life did actually match it, even with the attempt from DK to kind of keep unclear, and we're just getting swapped lanes instead, which I think Hanwha Life is going to be very happy with.
Yeah, not too bothered by it. Meanwhile, on the bottom side, I guess it does work out for Shiv, because of course, Nara into Casante for the first few levels does feel okay, but as we can see, Zeus navigating the lane quite nicely. And speaking of navigating lanes, Showmaker throwing a lot of cards towards Zeka here. And obviously the Yone isn't going to have the greatest of times early, but Zeka has been very, very good at just getting through these melee versus ranged matchups relatively unscathed. And that is continuing here if you have a look at the CS numbers outside of that one.
Yeah.
Didn't quite work.
Also has Doran Shield, has a resolve secondary, so should be fine. Staving off the early arrest, it's going to be mainly about the priority that Showmaker can consistently generate and how much Lucid can use that. And we do see that we do actually have Lucid looking for an invade here. I think Peanut did spot him based on the pings.
Yeah, there was some question mark pings going down here.
But he can stall a little bit, but the prio is there in both lanes, so I think Lucid should just be able to get it. We'll see if Peanut wants to try and sneak this away. This is definitely a risk. We have everyone here. Early scuffle could be coming through.
Yep, aiming, moving down. As you can see, Peanut was unable to get the smite. Gleaming Quill just to get him out of there. You can see the top lane does have to be vacated by the duo. And so HLE might be able to get themselves a slight experience advantage. And as we can see here, it's a couple of minions in the lead for Viper. Aiming going to be going back, actually, collecting early cull, just showing that he's kind of conceding this early game, understandably so. And is just going to be making his way back. And I think we'll probably be checking in on aiming after a few minutes' time. Not really going to be participating too much early on. And I think that that can be a little bit of a worry. I do think that DK's avenue for victory in this series, in this game, sorry, is probably going to be snowballing an early advantage and then being able to win in side lanes for the remainder of the game.
If Shiu gets this win, he actually equalizes Zeus for wins on Gnar, which would be a nice little bit of symmetry. And yeah, as you already highlighted during the draft, Atlas, the DK comp to me will always have late game potential if the game gets messy because of the insane amounts of global pressure that they have as...
Oh, there's the hook. Beryl is the one that DK wants to get hooked, but he's CC'd for so long. This Nautilus things, I guess, still going to be taken down to potion range. He's going to be drinking one of those. We'll see how Beryl's going to do.
Yeah, level 1 was fine. I think Aiming and Beryl also got to the lane a little bit earlier because Home Alive was trying the match, but this is unfortunately how I think a lot of this lane is going to look, particularly with the cool pickup. For Aiming, though, I do think that pre-6 and until you get a few more levels in general, you really don't want to be doing too much. So it does make sense in that regard. Also, very interesting to see what Showmaker's build is going to look like. This man is...
Oh, there's the flash in, and Beryl doesn't have a whole lot of potions left over. The grand exit going to try and get him out of there as the last tick of Ignite not going to be enough. And he is going to go home. DK, they're weathering the storm. And it's kind of going okay. However, still aggression in favor of HLE right now.
He doesn't have to use his flash. But this is, I think, the fallout of helping Lucid secure that early buff. Now, Lucid, as a result, does have an experience lead, does have a sizable CS lead as well, but it's because Aiming and Beryl actually roamed for a good amount of time. Then Aiming also went back to get the call, and that has led to the experience lead that we see here as Shiu.
That's a lot of damage, as Zeus, under 100 health. Shiu not going to be able to tank up that turret forever. And Zeus, in the end, just kind of looks like he uses his health bar well. As Lucid comes on over, looks to try and take the first dragon of the game. That'll be the first portion of a feat of strength as well. As, Showmaker going to sign his own name on the floor and head back home.
Crowd loved that one.
Man, can you believe it's 2025 and Showmaker won in 2020?
I know.
Wow. It's time.
I got very close in 2021 and was then...
But instead it was
foiled by the man across the rift, as we do have Zeus just TPing back. Beryl is definitely looking. They're looking for a cross-map play because right now the grubs are not really available. Shiu needs to be a bit careful, though. I don't know how his Gnar bar is looking, but as mini Gnar, he's definitely diveable when there is a Maokai on his screen.
Yeah, it doesn't exactly have a Gnar bar just yet. At least it can stack back up as he's trying to avoid these feathers as best he can. Grabs the cannon as well. No worries whatsoever. Does, of course, have some upgraded shoes, which are going to make him feel a bit better as well as far as navigating this potential dive.
Because we haven't mentioned that, but Humble Life is full AD, which realistically...
Something mixed damage for Yone, something Maokai damage.
Yeah, okay. Well, Peanut is not going AP, so that won't have to have that whole conversation.
He better build his Heartsteel, though.
He will. He's on his way. The big takeaway for that is that for DK, there isn't really any... Like, if there was a Cassante on DK instead, I feel like eventually you do just get to the point where he's basically unkillable and your life gets very, very hard. But DK will have an easier time itemizing. Things like, obviously, the played still caps that we already see are good, but looking like... There's not a lot of champions where things like Death Dance, where you can get a lot of value into full AD comps, are really going to work out. If this was, I don't know, different champion on top, like the Olaf that we've seen before, could definitely do that. As Peanut is going to cancel Shiu's back, who just wanted to go home and won't be allowed to. And we haven't seen an ultimate yet from Showmaker. That is something that we always talk about. It's that early early attempt as Shiu didn't actually get to complete his back here. Had to TP to catch the wave. So that is going to give Zeus some tempo. We'll see if they're able to use that.
He's going back, utilizing it right now. See what he's going to be able to complete is, at the moment, does have even items, now with a chain vest on top of it. So as far as the 1v1 matchup, as in accordance to our top laners, it's probably going to be an advantage for Zeus. But you can see he's heading towards the top lane to maintain a bit of a lane swap scenario. As it looks like a lot sort of grouped towards his bottom side as the wildcards do fly forward. Showmaker not able to find any sort of mitigation to Zeka's onslaught. Is Delight going to find a minion as the ulti goes wide there as well. Smooth footwork there from Showmaker. He does the walk backwards tactic, and it works beautifully.
And I understand why they want to take him down, because that man is farming gold, right? So he has, he has the elixirs, so he gets a good amount of extra gold from that. Then he has the TF passive as well, and he has first strike. So he is really, really raking in the money.
And he's going to be raking in the experience as well, as Rod of Ages is going to be completed. And so he's not only going to have all the money, he's going to have all of the levels. And then DK should be pretty strong as far as like mid-game and finding some of these split push options in the later game is concerned as well.
Yeah, they're going to get the extra level as well when you hit 9. You get the skill level from the elixir. Do want to say that they do need to start doing stuff at some point.
Yeah.
For DK. I don't think we've reached a timer quite yet. I think we're still have plenty of opportunities. The Dragons is going to be the big thing, as we do have 2 of, I think, the best Dragons already in. I mentioned the fact that they were full AD. If DK then also starts stacking like a Mountain Soul, then that would obviously become a big problem.
Thankfully, the first Dragon was a Mountain.
Yeah, well, thankfully for Hanwha. Unfortunately for DK, there are still a lot of Drakes that I think feel relatively subpar. I think Ocean, if you're a more squishy team, is not that great. Camtech, we've talked about a lot as well, as a possible angle here.
Yeah, Feral.
We do have Showmaker hovering, but yeah, there are 2 people there with all cooldowns, so I'm going to be able to do anything there.
Oh, you can see she really wants to play aggressive, and Zeus is just not allowing it to happen. As here in the mid lane, Showmaker's health bar looks much beefier than it has any right to be perfectly honest. This Catalyst is certainly helping out there. As, yeah, we're just clearing minions for the majority. And DK, it looks like they are not bothered by these grubs going over to HLE.
Oh, hold that thought, because I think they're going to contest these.
All right, well, the Destiny is available here for Showmaker. You can see Delight still roaming up from the bottom side of the map as Lucid's going to be coming on over. So yeah, I tell a lie. HLE going to go over. They're going to get one of these just to give them the Void Mites.
Oh, that's...
And they're going to back away.
That's not really worth, though. You don't get the feat because one was taken by Hanwha Live. And then there's also no one that I can actually answer. I think Showmaker's just going to port to the bot lane with his ultimate to deny too much going over. So good response there. But that means the moment he shows that Lucid isn't able. So that's going to be 5 grubs for Hanwha Life. And I think DK really would have liked those. So now there's even more pressure on them to actually get the dragon. Because if they don't, you give over the grubs without really getting anything in return. As a Peanut, I think, trying to kind of keep hidden where he is for as long as possible so he could rotate over towards Dragon, and Lucid is not going to be in any position. Showmaker is also backing.
Yeah.
And is it really, instead we're going to look for the cross map, a dive on Cassante.
We've seen these not necessarily go so well, as Peanut's going to be starting off this Dragon without a hitch. Aiming in this mid lane, just looking to hold on, and it's a Gromp that's going to be stolen here from Lucid, so already you can feel that DK are playing without much tempo in this game, right? The confidence doesn't feel too high, but they're still going to go for this, as there's the flash just to try and interrupt. The chain CC comes through, but he's just so tanky. He's going all out to try and kill Shiu as well as Zeka. He's looking to come in and finish the job. The snapback should be there, and Shiu is just waiting for it. Knows that he's going to go down. A trade of top laners, but first blood does go to DK. As Aiming, he's going to have to cleanse, and Peanut gets out the flash as well. So Aiming having to get out of there. Beryl knocks up Peanut. Peanut just ignores him. And now a whole bunch of damage onto this outer turret in the mid lane. 5 grubs worth of taking this down as Delight misses a hook. But it doesn't really matter as far as this game state is concerned, as HLE slowly but surely getting lead after lead.
Ooh. So that topside play ended up being a 1-for-1 trade, was a net positive in that isolation because the teleport was used there by Zeka. And then both Zeus and Shiu flashed. I think their Shiu also was sitting on basically only boots, so he just didn't have that much damage because I think it's actually well set up, right? Try to catch Zeus off guard. They catch him mid-Q animation, which means that he doesn't actually get to use the W, but he's still so tanky. This is 280 champions trying to damage him. Just not quite enough. And then Shiu is goes down eventually. Anyway, Zeka, even though he doesn't quite find him immediately, he's still able to get the kill. But taking into account that the Dragon went over to Hanwha Live, the Grubs went over to Hanwha Live, I feel like DK with a composition that in theory should try and always be ahead of the play and have a good setup, just hasn't really been able to retake that control. Now they do have the champions, and with the amount of CC and the rotations that they have available to them to retake that, but I think does for Hanwha look better? It is pretty negligible though. Again, I do think DK's comp scales well, it's just compared to Hanwha.
And what does it scale into? Exactly right. I don't think DK are going to be winning team fights. They can win the map though. They just haven't really been able to utilize their champions and their ability to be there faster than their opposition, unless they can do it now. As Peanut throws down the ulti, in comes Showmaker, but he's straight into the brambles. Lucid gonna be the first one to fall in the fight as Beryl's trying to get out, and Viper! He pulls back the feathers. He doesn't quite have the damage though. Everyone on DK, apart from the jungle, is going to fall, and then the other lover duo is, the other of the lovers duo is going to fall as Beryl was just standing on top of a feather he wasn't supposed to be standing on.
Poor DK.
Oh, Zeka looking for aiming.
All out of sorts. So nicely done. Engaging on Peanut, as we have learned, particularly when he's on Maokai. On Zyra, you can get away with it. You know, on Zyra, it often is the right call. On Maokai, just feels like it doesn't quite hit. Crucially here, Lucid doesn't have his ult, and I think that the ult would have been the difference maker here. They're also not ready for both the Light and Viper to arrive, so they're looking for a 4v2. Instead, they find great knock-up from the Light. Viper with the flash recall to set up almost 3 kills. I think DK, that wasn't quite game-losing. Yeah, Beryl, I don't know, man. That's just Beryl, I think. But it could have very well been. If more kills go over, that's just the end of the game right there. And I think Hanwha Live still going to be feeling amazing here. More gold going onto this Xayah here.
Oh, there it was. Right as it comes off cooldown, he's able to clean up Beryl there. And you can see now, 1-0-1 for Viper on this Xayah. It gets them the feats of strength as well. HLE, prime position. It has only equated to 700 gold, and it's all Showmaker's fault.
That's what I'm saying, right? Showmaker is really doing his best to keep still has a lead looking okay.
And Zeka is on 2-0-1 and even on farm. She is in a whole host of trouble. It was an attempted bait, but she was just dead.
Oh, and they spotted Lucid. The key thing again, it's Delight and Viper. For me, are the biggest difference makers. Delight and Viper have just been so on point with these roams. And last time we saw that topside play was already good for Hanwha. While it was happening, Zeus got a turret.
There's a depth charge, and he does manage to cleanse, get himself out of the way, but they're just going to change their mind. Beryl is going to be their next target. Impossible to lock down a Rakan for too long, though. So he is going to be able to make his way up. The problem is, the 1-3-1 that I was talking about being great for DK is being executed by HLE way better in this mid-game.
HLE are just running them around the map. It's really impressive. DK, in theory, should always have a man advantage. That's where the comp shines. Just haven't been able to do so. And we are, I think, one good team fight away. Again, I want to highlight, it is initially like Lucid and Zeus maybe looking for something here, but because the Xayah is so far ahead, you can see like Beryl and Aiming just can't join the play, and then Peanut shows up. Yeah, Lucid can't do anything,
and she is just dead. And there's not a whole lot he can do. It kind of felt like Lucid was leaving him out to dry, but they don't win that 2v2.
Yeah.
All right. Well. Showmaker looking to build item number 2 as quickly as he possibly can. Does have level 12. He's going to be getting towards that last rank of the Destiny as soon as he possibly can. Yeah, as this Rod of Ages stacks up. Still a few more stacks for that one to give him that next level, though.
That's, again, it goes back to what I was saying earlier as well. Who can you actually pick out? Like, who can you pick off here? Who can you just throw all your CC on and then take them down? And I think the answer, unfortunately, is...
It sort of has to be the same person multiple times.
Yeah.
Is what it has to be. Or you catch Zeka before he separates his soul from his body. Or something like that. There's just a caveat for every single option. Even Delight, who theoretically doesn't have a way out, but the problem is that if you're engaging on a Delight, you've got a problem. Shiu's going to throw his ult away. Zeka does take the damage from it, of course, so Shiu going to be happy about that, but it's only really a message sent.
Yeah, that's also going to be the second Ocean Drake going over, and for Hanwha, I don't think an Ocean Drake is too much value for DK. Guess what? For Hanwha,
oh yeah,
that is going to be feeling great. You have 3 beefy boys, all of which are going to be able to use that very, very nicely. And you can see DK, they keep looking, they keep searching for plays, keep searching for opportunities, and they're just not really given any.
And now Showmaker here towards the bottom side. So far, we do adjudicate Twisted Fates. Like, this is a thing that we've done for many, many years. You adjudicate a Twisted Fate based on how well their first Destiny play went. And he used his first Destiny to get to the bottom lane to catch a minion wave, and the next one was used in the top lane in a losing fight. And so far as the Twisted Fate adjudication is concerned, it's not looking so hot for DK. Good news is they're not too far behind when it comes to gold. There's an opportunity to try and make your way back. The problem is that, yeah, I don't know. They're playing to the tune of HLE, and if they continue to do that, HLE will just win.
Yeah, and I think it is also interesting to look at this. Oh, Beryl.
Oh, see what he set up here as Peanut comes around from the side, and Beryl's going back in, finds another knockup. Battle Dance is back to aiming one more time.
They just don't have damage.
Yeah, it's
like they
not
need
quite enough
to actually commit. Aiming doesn't have a second item yet.
And also, like, when a play like that happens, shouldn't you then have an eye above your head, you know? Like, things like this.
Yep.
But it's just not DK with the confidence that we've seen them have.
One thing I do want to highlight in the context of Fearless is that there are a ton of picks that are good for Hanwha that DK was able to swipe up with this draft, right? And Hanwha have had incredible Game 1 win rate, and I think Hanwha in best of 5s have just looked good. This is another testament as maybe this is the collapse we've been waiting for. They're definitely looking for it as...
Yeah, there's the Destiny, and that's one way to find Viper. Does get the cleanse out as Peanut taking a fair bit of damage, but don't be baited. Well. Yeah.
Oh,
here comes
look
Zeus.
at you. Otacon is up. Veganar is looking for them.
Can we find the angle? Look at this Narbar. It is absolutely gorgeous. There's no Featherstorm. Pulls 2 of them back, but there are 2 tanks. And Viper is free hitting. Already, Beryl goes down. And Zeka, he finds the ult. He gets on top of Showmaker. Aiming is free hitting, but is it going to be enough? That's the question. Is Showmaker just limping his way out of the fight and is not enough? Otacon, they're just going to do it as sort of a stepping stone after winning that 5v5. HLE getting everything on the map today.
And game number 1 is looking dire for DK. Hanwha Life, I don't think they're going to be losing that streak. This initial play is great. Showmaker doesn't get hit by the feathers. They get the ult out. And then we see the imminent collapse come through. I think here the target selection, and DK just doesn't seem to be on the same page, right? Like Shiu going in there. I think you need to find the backline. You need to find Zeka and Viper.
Yeah,
without them, this comp doesn't have that much damage, right? But they still had their flash available, which I think is one of the reasons why it's very telegraphed. If he like flash and tries to ult them, I think they flash out of it. So that means that then maybe someone else had to go in, but the rest of the team wasn't really quite in a position. And Hanwha Life, cool, calm, and collected. That's Otacon. That's the gold lead solidified. And I think that this game number 1 is going to continue smoothly for them in that gold different trend that we've seen thus far.
It's looking a little bit of just up and to the right here for HLE.
Yup.
We'll see whether DK can find a miracle, but it's going to have to be a miracle. I think that last team fight felt like their shot, you know, the way of getting back into this game. And right now,
miss their shot.
They did.
Yeah.
And HLE now for the next minute and a bit will be able to just push with impunity up until the Baron is going to spawn. 3 minutes time before that one does come back up.
Okay.
Before that, we will have a Ocean Drake as well for Soul Point for HLE. Shiu with an Arbar in a decent position. DK, can they orchestrate a fight better this time around as Lucid looking for an angle? There are the Brambles, though, as HLE take matters into their own hands. The ulti from downtown from Zeka, that gets rid of his opposite number. Beryl finds nothing with his grand entrance, and HLE, they're still pushing forward. The depth charge, too strong, and Zeus is going all out and all in into the enemy base. The knockups are everywhere as Lucid gonna be the second one for Peanut to take down. And HLE, I think they kind of wanted to die for the free trip back home, but they don't even get that because they are too far ahead. First inhibitor of the game going to be falling here as HLE 10-2. This is a shellacking in game one.
We should have known when we saw Peanut getting invaded early. That's never the way.
It's not.
There's just Peanut on Maokai. You can't get him out. As we take a look here, well, obviously at this point for Humble Life, there really aren't a lot of bad plays. You have the Otacon buff, as long as you don't throw everyone in, but Delight with these hooks has been incredible. I gotta say the Nautilus pick, when I saw it, it felt like the least exciting part of this draft for me. But he's been
it just hasn't been that successful.
So good.
But you're right. He's been amazing. Xayah as well. I'm never really that enthused by a Xayah pickup. It felt like it was very early. It felt a bit forced in the draft as well. But Viper, as you can see, is having no such qualms on the champion.
Yeah, and Lucid with barely any damage on his Vi, something we very rarely see. Generally is the Vi guy, but in this draft, I think it boils down to what we were saying earlier. The moment that they didn't find any early leads around the early objectives, any picks, I expected the game to not get out of control this early, but you do, that's kind of a bad sign, right? That's not what you want to see with a composition like this. And from this point on, the game is entirely in Humble Life's hands. We are looking at...
I mean, Viper has a 2-level lead over Lucid, 4-level lead over Beryl,
yeah,
and I guess Delight.
We're looking at, we don't need a Baron steal. You know, we need...
Yeah,
we need a bunch of those.
Yeah. This is give up the Drake so that you can steal Elder and steal Baron, one after the other, somehow. As Showmaker has discovered Zeka, whose soul is rebound. He tries to ult his way out, but that is Showmaker finding a red card on him. And Zayas is teleported in. They're not going to kill him.
That's
but
the play.
Viper is going to take the base.
Man, if they did it 10 minutes earlier, it would have been great.
It would have.
That was the play right there. That's the combo.
Yep.
That's the dream, Atlas.
Well, they've figured it out for game 2.
Yeah,
as Shiu is going to clear out a wave. Yeah, it is about as dire as that. Rapid fire cannon completed here for Showmaker. I don't know whether that's going to make too much of a difference, but Infinity Edge done for Zeka. Let's have a look at this one more time, as it's great timing, you know, back to the Soul, and then the Destiny comes in, and Showmaker does have a decent amount of damage.
Yeah, I also like the timing here, because knowing that he doesn't have his snapback means that you can guarantee the CC, you can get a lot more damage. It's a lot easier to lock him down. It's nice.
But that's a teleport onto a Baron. And that could mean that HLE have decided that they just want to do it.
So if you want this game to continue, Showmaker needs to not die, which...
Well, he's going to be flashing, takes a Maokai with him here, and is just punched back towards Viper, who slices him up with these feathers. The brambles come on past, and that is Beryl that's being picked off as well. Oh man, Peanut is just taken full control of this game. He presses Twisted Advance, and people die. That is how it goes. Zayas now buying the time of 3 members of DK, the only ones that are left on the map. And Baron, like you say, is just going to be taken out. They'll take a Constellation Cassante for it, maybe.
Right.
Unless he's just going to go all out and kill all of them as he flashes away. In goes aiming, finds a Killer Instinct. There, it's about time. They manage to get their prize, but so does HLE. As the Purple Worm goes down. And unfortunately, when you kill Zayas, you don't get a really cool buff that makes your minions go crazy. HLE do get one of those, though.
Back-to-back tiny dreams. Unfortunately, the Dreamscape is not in a good spot here. With Showmaker, they have no vision, right? Someone has to face check. I think that, unfortunately, and we see this with Beryl here as well, trying to play Rakan. I don't think Beryl's had a great game. Delight obviously has been incredible in back-to-back series now. But like trying to play Rakan into this amount of point-and-click CC is also just not, it's just not great. And it makes you go back to that Rakan pickup that we saw very early on, which I think I felt good with at the time. Unfortunately, doesn't seem like it's worked out. And I think you can see for DK as well, you know, resignation on the faces this first game. Yeah. Not realistically going to find the way back in, but this was the red side draft, and they took away a bunch of champions. They got to clean up the gameplay, though, because if they play like this in game number 1 as well, I think the biggest edge they have over Hanwha is their early skirmishing, is their explosive level of play. And they got to showcase that in game number 2.
They're going to showcase the confidence.
Yeah.
That's what they just don't have. And we know that DK can play drafts like this with immense amounts of confidence and be able to just run over games that they have no right in winning. We've seen it before with drafts that are almost identical to this. It's just not something that we're seeing right now. Is aiming on his famous Kai'Sa. Throwing out some Cathy and Rain towards Peanut here, who just kind of shrugs. HLE looking for the last remaining inhibitor turret. They do manage to take that. All the inhibitors back up and available now, though. But Hook is going to engage this fight. Lucid, the first one to be taken as they try to dive in. But Zeus just mitigates everything. The quickness doing nothing at all. The ulti straight on top of aiming. Zeka doesn't miss those, and he's now looking for even more as, oh my goodness, it was 3 hits and Showmaker was on the ground. Nexus turret's gonna follow him. 17-4 as HLE will tear DK to shreds on their onslaught of these playoffs. They will take a bit of a break here, but man, that blue side win, that's a sign of things to come. Maybe we're going home early.
How alive? Going to maintain that game 1 win streak.
There we go, 12-0, baby.
That one barely even felt like a game. Crazy level of play coming out from Hanwha. And what was most impressive to me was not that with this draft, once they got to the team fight, they out-executed, right? I think we saw it so pronounced in that final fight, even with Lucid actually getting an ult off. Like, he was there, and then there was a Maokai, Cassante, and Nautilus in between his teammates. And for Hanwha Life, to me, that is always a given. But it's how well they actually maintain tempo early on. Their objective control in the early laning phase. Not falling into any of the traps that I think were set by DK. Reading them like a book. Winning these small side lane skirmishes meant that the DK comp never got to play the game.
Yep. And it felt to me like DK didn't try to play the game quite as much as they have been trying to play the game in series past. So let's hope that they up the tempo, up the aggression moving into game at number 2. Otherwise, this could be over a lot earlier than a lot of us assume. Time to go to a short break. When we get back, it is going to be the space to break that one down and then the second game of the series. And let's hope it's a good one.
억제기 다 깰만 하지 않냐?
니도 억제기 깨는 거 어때?
맞아. 그리고
천천히 라인 타임.
야 특패 노플이라서 특패 그랩
바이 한번 끌게. 바이.
좋다. 땀 열어봐. 바이 박았어. 나 파이선 걸어.
파이상 공부 잡고.
나 벌레. 보자. 나르 노플이야.
파이상 걸었고. 나르. 어때?
특패도 노플이야.
나이스. 어때?
나이스요.
1세트 안 맞았냐?
이 세트의 악마 가냐?